Heyo, it's me, the janky cat bear nanachi hapu furry thing that speaks into the camera while telling you about stuff I find interesting. And today we're going to look at how to upload a basic world for Massive Loop. That could also be interpreted as how to upload a pre-made creation or a paid asset, but firstly, this video is assuming you've already made an account for Massive Loop and have Unity Hub, both an account and installed. We're not going to go through that process as I have an entire video covering Massive Loop's account creation and setup, which you can easily find on my channel. There are literally countless ways you can create worlds, from large-scale cityscapes to, small cozy hangouts, from using pre-made assets to completely making everything by hand from scratch. I'm not anywhere near competent enough to teach the intricacies of creating worlds from scratch. Otherwise, this video would be like a solid 5 hours long of just Unity and Blender. But this will be the easiest method that I generally prefer to personally use, which is just a simple conversion of a pre-existing world or functional building. So basically a landscape that I know for a fact could be converted into a functional world or is already intended to be used as a world in a VR play space. But you can find plenty of pre-made creations on different sites or services, whether that's from Massive Loop's creator economy or a website like Sketchfab or Booth. So we're going to use a world that we've used in the past as a converted Hapu Hangout for our example and subject matter. This one is a paid creation made for a different platform, so I won't be able to share the file, but there are countless free world scale maps and pre-made worlds just a few clicks away, if you want to look at it like that. Places like Sketchfab and Booth make it pretty simple and easy. But there are four main parts: finding and downloading a pre-made world, Massive Loop's website side of things, basically thumbnail for the world, description, and all the backend stuff. How many people are allowed in the world, etc. But importing the world to Unity and making it compatible so we can upload, then test the world. Now, we're not going to go into scripting or advanced creation aspects, since I myself am not familiar enough to be teaching anyone those kinds of things. But for this video, we're using Winter Hibernation, which is linked in the video description for anyone who's also interested in using the really awesome world being shown off. Now, I found it on Booth a few years ago, and we've used it a few times in the past, mainly for our Hapu Hangout world, which is basically just an upgraded version of this. But it's genuinely super sick, and I couldn't tell you how many times I've, fallen asleep in VR while in the dark room, or the amount of friends I've brought to our version of this world. It's genuinely awesome, and I couldn't think of a better way or a better world to be the star of the video. So let's start this off by heading over to the website next. Let's make sure we have the Massive Loop browser and SDK/Write Unity version downloaded. You can't miss the giant download button after you've logged into your account. Click the first option and download Massive Loop's launcher, otherwise known as their browser, by clicking the huge orange button on the right side under the ML logo. After that, install it and log in once it launches. Since I'm already logged in, I skipped that part, but it's the same information you used to make your account on the website. Then you'll see everything I see in the window that comes up next to me after the download. It didn't take too long to download, damn, or install. So now that it's installed, like I said, I'm already logged in, so we skip that part. Now that we've got the launcher, head over to download again and click on the second option this time. Helpfully, both the Unity version you need and the SDK are right next to each other, so download both of them next. Now, we won't be using either the SDK or Unity file we just downloaded for the faster way to go about everything, but just in case you want to go through the normal process, as I'd put it, do it anyway, and I'll explain how that works later on once we've reached that segment. Now, moving on to the next step, let's find ourselves Massive Loop's main server on the website and click on it. We're looking for the Worlds tab, which is really straightforward and extremely noticeable in the video next to me. Once we've hit the next page, on the far right side, you'll see a yellow button that says Create World. Click on it and we can start setting up the informational side of our world. Starting with the name of the world, what category it falls under. In our case, the project we're using as an example would fall either into social or nature, depending on how you look at it, and how many people are allowed in the world at one time. Now, the max world upload size is 512 megabytes, which is a lot, in fairness. Optimization isn't that hard, but that's a subject for a different day. Now, the last thing we can modify on the first page is the description, which lets you, well, describe your world. After you're happy with everything, press the yellow create button, then we can modify pretty much everything you can think of on the next page. From here, you can change the server's status, if it's public, private, inactive, and the thumbnail used to represent your world with a maximum size of a megabyte. So if you want to go the extra mile, you can also optionally add a YouTube trailer or world to go along with your world. So when people check it out, they have additional context or information about the experience you're providing, which is pretty useful. You can also change what you've modified in the first portion near the bottom, and add cloud storage for persistent variables if that's of use to you. The age requirements and access requirements, owner and creator information are near the bottom of the page as well, alongside the delete world and update buttons. There is also a tab dedicated to publishing and selling or restricting access. Now, some of the names will be different in certain parts of the video, so if you notice the world name or the name on the website of the project we're working on isn't the same, it's because we're using what we're using for our example in this video is going on a different server than the main one. Now, I think it's really neat, and I like how they've set everything up, at least process-wise, to getting a world onto Massive Loop, but hopefully all of that was insightful or helpful. But I think it's time we move on to the meat and bones of the video. So, let's do it. Now, before we open up Unity, I haven't cleaned up the project before filming. This particular instance has, well, countless scripts that aren't compatible, so I'll show you a bit of the cleanup process. And before we proceed, make sure you check out the original map creator, which is linked in the description. And if you're going to be using this method of creation, make sure you credit the creators of whatever you use for your project, whether that's a world or, say, an actual object in the world. Always make sure you give proper credit. Okay, so open your Massive Loop launcher for me real fast. Now, in the creation menu, the little beaker below the play icon, you'll see an orange button that says New. Assuming you have Unity Hub or Unity, this will create a Unity project with the proper Unity and SDK version pre-installed. Now, the other process I mentioned with Unity Hub, you can download the current Unity version directly from the aforementioned link next to the SDK, and from there you create a new project like normal. 3D Core, name your project, wait for it to start up, then you drag and drop the SDK into it. Now, at this point, both ways to set up your project are more or less the same. So after we've got the SDK in, we're going to take our pre-made world and drop it into the Unity project. Same as we did with the SDK. Now, after it imports to your project, head over to your prefab or scene, whatever it's stored in, and load that puppy up. Just instantly check the console after loading everything up. The console in Unity will show you errors or issues, and you can antagonize it by pressing the Analyze World button in the SDK tab under Build, which helps identify errors, conflicts, or warnings, which I used a lot in this video. Now, let's get rid of the problems we can readily see. We've got a bunch of scripts and prefabs that are breaking everything. So I'm going to remove a lot of stuff. You don't always have to do this, but I'd rather add in whatever doesn't work at a later date, so I can make sure the majority of the project works first. Now, for this world, since it was originally built around a different VR platform, it still has a lot of the stuff it would have needed over there, So those are the first things I'm gonna seek out and delete, since they're most likely the cause of most of the errors. This is usually related to prefabs or scripts alongside mirrors and certain toggles. You'll notice I outright just removed everything relating to the mirrors. I didn't need to go that far. The switches I could have left, but we can easily add it back later. But, you know, better safe than sorry. And it made things a lot faster in the moment. Outside of that, we just had the nameplate out front, and that was the last conflict, which made itself, you know, apparent enough to be a problem. As you can probably tell by this point, most of the video takes place on the website / in Unity. We're not using Blender, since this is a fairly straightforward conversion, you know, instead of making everything ourselves. But I'll show you the basics of ML's SDK and, you know, how stuff works. So you can start bringing your own or other people's awesome ideas and creations to the virtual realm of Massive Loop. But when I say it's simple to, you know, quickly import a world or even make your own, I mean it. Outside of ripping incompatible scripts out of this project and cleaning up errors since it wasn't intended for here, actually getting to use it in game takes very little time or effort, which will depend on if you're doing everything from scratch or the quality of the original creation that you're importing, and, you know, so on. But from my experience, just about everything I've tested was usable pretty much immediately after I cleaned the expected errors out. But anyway, I think it's about time we're going to build and run the project now that everything's more or less sorted. Once it launches, let's take a look around the new and, well, cool place, pun intended, that we can explore. I really do love this place. A lot of us have had, you know, a lot of great memories here, and getting to bring something this cool to other people's attention by being able to show them on Massive Loop makes me kind of happy. And I can't wait to make even more awesome memories in this world. So there's obviously more than just walking around. You can add mirrors, portals, Massive Loop streaming browser, audio sources, grabbable objects, clickable and toggleable objects. That word breaks my mind. And there's a whole world of Lua scripting that is far beyond my caveman brain. Now, I was going to show you how to add mirrors and portals, but honestly, for now, I'll leave the rest up to the pros and link the official SDK components video, since they make it extremely straightforward and way better and faster than I could ever cover those specific topics, so make sure you check it out. I mainly wanted to show you how easy it is to bring worlds to Massive Loop and provide you the general process, so hopefully, you know, this video is able to guide you through the basics and give you the foundations to start learning more advanced forms of development, since importing or bringing over worlds that weren't specifically made with Massive Loop originally in mind is incredibly easy, despite how spooky it might look to new creators bringing stuff to the platform. If I can make a world like Hibernation work this easily, just imagine what else is possible. Think about how this world is going to look after I've had a few days to work on it. Uploading or making worlds for Massive Loop isn't only really straightforward and simple. I had a lot of fun tearing down my older projects and working on new ones specifically catered towards Massive Loop systems. But honestly, baby steps. Like the world we just brought into Massive Loop, they're the fundamental foundation for a lot of early or learning for creators to eventually branch out and make their own creations with the knowledge learned from, messing around with worlds or other people's creations in general. And it helps established creators get a basic feel for the SDK without having to go past a very surface level knowledge of development or features. But before we head over to the final portion, make sure you head over to your user profile on the website. Just do this real fast. Go to SDK uploads and find the world you just uploaded. Click on it and click on the pencil on the top right of the page. And just real quick, make sure that the world is set to the in progress tab and searchable. The clip I'm probably using to display it is, I'm going to take a guess, showing the Abyssal Order server, which isn't public as of this video, so when I try to click it, it's not going to show up. But, yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough of Unity and websites. My brain's melting. Let's move on to the ending segment of this video. Hey, thanks for making it this far. So, we're about to wrap up this adventure, but I wanted to make it clear that if you had any questions or need help, Massive Loop has an active Discord with areas dedicated to both world-specific and general help. So, there are also plenty of tutorials, other than this one as well, which goes in further depth about things we didn't cover, like SDK components and so on. So, feel free to speak up and we'll help however we can. Their Discord is linked below, but you can also just find it by searching Massive Loop in Discord server join function, since they also have a custom link. But I really appreciate everyone watching both this video and the live streams I've been doing. It's been a lot of fun, both figuring out how to make stuff like this and actually producing it. The feedback has been pretty amazing and it's really awesome. But seeing all of the interest in both Massive Loop in recent memory and the Hapus, my own personal projects, it's been really, really, really heartwarming, but it's really cool. I'm really excited and happy. There have been so many cool developments both within my community on Massive Loop and in general. There's been some pretty crazy progress over the past couple of months, and that makes me really happy. But I know I haven't exactly been the usual bubbly and positive dumbass everyone expects recently, but thank you to everyone who's been supporting me. It really does mean a lot. Stressful stuff aside, mental illness aside, I've been doing better recently, and I think it's starting to show with things like Abyssal Order. We've been doing a lot lately, and we aren't stopping anytime soon. Whether that's with new worlds or avatars, new roleplay lore, there's so many things that we've been working on and so many things that we've been able to get done in a short amount of time. It's honestly astonishing. But check back in a few weeks or week and a half, depending on if this video's late or not, for another video on Massive Loop. But no matter what, make sure you check them out. Anywho, I'm sorry this wasn't longer, more detailed. I've been puking my brains out. I got food poisoning. Moving hurts a lot. But anyway, thanks again, and I appreciate everyone watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I was able to help you get your first world onto Massive Loop, or maybe teach you something you didn't know before. Anyway, bye-bye.